Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Wednesday morning. A lot of college basketball last night. Most of them broke the way the locals wanted. BYU and Utah State winning. Utah did not. They fell to Houston 66-52. It's hard to score against Houston. It's hard for Utah to score against good teams. 59 at Kansas, 52 at Houston. Didn't get themselves completely embarrassed, I suppose, but it's a frustrating slog for the Utes here as the losing streak is extended to 6. BYU snapped their losing streak. They beat Baylor 99-94. They had a terrible stretch in the middle of the first half and got down by 12. Played great from that point. About 8 minutes left in the half to about 5 minutes left in the game. 23-minute stretch of basketball. Outscored Baylor 62-33. I mean, they look great at both ends of the floor and in transition in between. And why, on a night they were 3 of 19 from 3, they decided to to continue launching three-pointers in the last 5 minutes with a 17-point lead, I will never know. And there was a timeout after they took a couple ill-advised shots, and I'm pretty sure it was discussed. And they came out and took a couple more. I don't get it. I don't know what they're doing in the last 5 minutes. I don't know why they won by 5 when they're up by 17 with 5 minutes to go. They were still, despite making some curious decisions, they were still up by 14 with 3 minutes to go. But they had to sweat it out in the final seconds. But they get the win, and the streak is snapped. And meanwhile, Utah State does what Utah State does. They just keep winning. Fresno State's not very good. Fresno had to go to Logan. It didn't seem like there was much of a chance they would win. And sure enough, the Aggies were up by 12 at the half, and they win 91-78. Curious thing in this game, Elijah Perryman, 16 points in 19 minutes, the freshman leading all scores. He had it going on. Kobe King came off the bench with 14, although Kobe's done that. He's had some big games and he's had some quiet stretches, but Perryman had 16 points in the last 5 games combined. And in the 2 wins over Wyoming, he got to play a combined total of 27 minutes and he didn't score in either game in a total of 27 minutes. But Elijah had it going last night. Let's hear Jerrod Calhoun with Scotty G after the game.
Coach, you're down 8-0 right out of the gate, and you bring 4 guys immediately into the game and say, okay, this isn't going to fly. And it seems like the 4 guys that came in really kind of set the tone for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just how you practice is how you're going to play. And we got some guys that didn't have good practices for about a week. They haven't played real good basketball. So the nice thing about our team is we over me, and we've got a lot of guys on that bench that are hungry. Kobe King and I had a great talk yesterday in my office for about 15-20 minutes. I said, stay the course. We're going to get you more minutes. His mindset was tremendous yesterday. Elijah Perryman, I thought, had the best practice of his career. He sat down. He tried to play defense. He tried to make good decisions. Kate Carson-Templin was good, right? So those 3 kids and Gary Clark and Zach Keller had great practices yesterday. Who played well tonight? Those guys. It's real simple, Scotty. You get in life, you get out of life what you put in it. You don't put in the work at practice, you're not going to get the results. So I had to call 2 timeouts and scream and yell and carry on. That's not me. That's not what I want to do. But I have to get the best out of our guys and get points across sometimes by raising my voice. So we need Drake and Mason to be better and lead this team better.
Coach, I did this for a long time. Now I sit over here, and this is more calm. I'll promise you. But, a lot of times, and I've watched your team from a distance. It's the first time I got to be here. But watch you on TV 7-8 times. And the we over me thing, I saw that tonight. There were 6 or 7 offensive possessions in the second half where one guy could have taken a shot and you probably lived with it. Yep. But it was the extra. And it gave you I just love the way you guys set each other up. The assist to turnovers 20-31. That's you guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, power of the pass, good to great. I didn't even think we played that well tonight offensively. We scored 91. That's the sad part. You got to fall in love with the process. We look at so much about outcomes, and it's hard to get young players to do that on a daily basis, whether it's your screening, your cutting, carrying out a game plan. But I thought Colby and those guys, that second unit, that ball was popping a lot tonight.
There was a sequence here late in the first half where you rotated around to Perriman, and Perriman hits the 3, and it's just like you almost felt Fresno's break at that point.
Yeah, that was a great possession. That's a drive kick. We talk about respacing. We don't want to – we have different terminologies, weird terminologies. Anytime you get in the paint and you stay saying, we tell our guys we're going to drown. We say the middle of the key is a pool, and you don't want to drown in the pool. You got to respace, right? You got to give the next pass, the guy that receives the pass, space. And I thought that particular possession was one of the best of the season.
You mentioned Keller, and you mentioned Templin. I thought they were a little bit size disadvantaged tonight. That dude's a big dude.
He
and
is.
I thought they fought him all night. I thought they were physical. Obviously not perfect. I'm sure there's things you'll pick apart. But I thought what they brought was some nice physicality.
Played really, I thought Zach played really, really hard. Zach struggles after about 3 minutes. I got to get him out. He just doesn't run hard enough after 3 minutes. I get him out. I put Clark in when he needs a blow. I put KT in. So we do that by committee. Those are 3 kids that play that position. We just do it by committee. And tonight we went big. Adlin has really struggled for 2 games. He's going to go through this. This is good for him. I just told him in the locker room, it's how you respond to some of these adverse situations because you've had it pretty good for a long period of time, right? So it's good. Hopefully, some of those kids can refocus, reset, and get ready to go because Memphis is talented. Big-time opportunity coached by, I think, one of the greatest point guards ever played the game. They are a very, very athletic team. As we know, we struggle with athletes on the front line, so our positioning and our ability to keep teams out of the paint when we play the athletic teams, we got to show up on Saturday. So we got to have 2 good days.
We talk about the dog days of February, and you would think that would affect a true freshman more than anybody, but Elijah Perriman, as stretches, looked like the best player on the court tonight.
Yeah, I think he was frustrated with his minutes at Wyoming, only playing 10 minutes, so it's sometimes you put a lot of trust and value in your seniors, right? This is Drake Allen's last go-around and MJ Collins and some of these guys. So I always give them the majority of the minutes, but we couldn't do that tonight. Elijah Perriman was so good. We had to get him in there. And I think he'll continue to do that down the stretch here. And we said, you guys are sophomores now. You're not freshmen. You got to continue to lock in. And, it just shows if you have good practices, that's all this is. If you're around this team every day, which nobody is, so they don't get to see it. They just show up at the games. You just know as a coach who's ready to play and who's not, and that's the frustrating part, I think, with our group at times over the last 4 or 5 days. So tomorrow will be good. I think a good off day tomorrow, get away from each other, get away from basketball, come back Thursday and Friday. And like I said, it's a huge game. It's a quad 3 now. We thought this would be a quad 1. So it's totally backfired on us. Let's call it like it is. You've got to win home games. We had an anticipation this would be at worst a quad 2. It's a quad 3. So we've got to be ready to go because I have a lot of respect for their program.
All right, they're the Aggies. Now the Cougars also win. They get that 99-94 win at Baylor. Not the toughest opponent. Baylor falls to 3-9 in league, but man, BYU just needed a win. They had lost 4 in a row. They just needed to get out there, win their 18th game, get back over 500 in league. They're 18-6 on the year. They're 6-5 in league. Yes, they made a mess of the end of the game. A.J. DeBonsa, 36 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds. Pretty good all-around game there. Robert Wright III, 30 points. Both DeBonsa and Wright did not come out. They played all 40 minutes and combined for 66 of the 99 points. And they just drove into the paint anytime they wanted. Baylor's defense, they might as well have had me out there. I mean, they were just traffic cones. And for the most part, BYU just kept driving the hoop and getting an easy 2. They did get in stretches where they took 3-pointers, and I don't know why, but they did. Richie Saunders struggled 0 of 5 from 3, but 6 of 9 on 2, and I thought he made a bunch of hustle plays. He had 9 rebounds. Mook came off the bench with 10 boards. So they had some guys out there rebounding. They get the win. After the game, the head coach, Kevin Young, goes to the podium, along with the guys who were really filling it up. AJ with 36 points and Rob Wright with 30. Here they are after the game.
A wild game out there tonight. I mean, you guys get the lead in the second half. Baylor cuts into it. I mean, is this kind of the game you expected, especially in the Big 12?
Never know in the Big 12. Every game's hard. every team has good players and good coaching and good atmosphere. So I'll have to look at the film to see exactly what happened. I thought we were, they made a little run. I thought, Richie probably doesn't pull the trigger on that last three in the corner, and we win by 10 or 12 and the game's over, right? So give them credit for extending the game at the end. But I love the fact that, our guys showed resiliency on the road when it feels, things have been tough sledding for us. And so to have that kind of poise on the road against it, and unfortunately for us, it feels like every night someone's having a career night. But Yesufu was incredible. He got going. And like I said, for our guys to be able to withstand that and just have the determination to just flat out get a win, I'm proud of them for that.
Right here. Rob, is that the kind of response, or is that what you expected from the crowd, and how did you try to block that out?
Yeah, that's definitely what I expected. I mean, I remember when we played LJ last year and when he got here, so I kind of was expecting that. But I think I handled it pretty well.
Coach, what can you say about Rob, and what did you tell him coming into this game?
I just talked to him, man, how you feeling? It's when we walked in the building this morning for shoot around. And Rob's very mature. I honestly wasn't worried about him at all. He's very level-headed, very composed player. And I thought he handled it great. I mean, obviously he had an unbelievable game. But, and I actually have to give the Baylor fans credit. They kept it classy. They're going to go at him, and it was in a way that was, I thought, good, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And I thought the way Rob responded by having a tremendous game and helping us pull it out at the end was, pretty cool.
Kevin, how badly did you need that win, and what did you learn about your guys, and what does it say about your guys that you were coming to this environment and won?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying we needed it extremely bad, and every season's different. Every there's just adversity. You're not going to steamroll. Definitely not through the Big 12. Did I think we'd ever get to a point where we dropped 4 straight? No, I did not. But honestly, man, I'm proud of the guys' response in terms of even the Houston game. I thought the way we battled in that game against a high-quality opponent was stuff I felt like we drew from, to be honest with you, in this game. And it's a long season for a reason. You gotta ride the wave, and I'm just proud of the way that our guys gutted this out and showed up, especially at the beginning where we had to kind of find the right combinations of players, I think, and different guys stepped up, and so that for me makes it even more rewarding for our team.
Hi, Coach. What did you see from Tunde on tape versus maybe what you saw tonight, and some of the issues that he may have caused for your defense?
Well, he shot the ball extremely well. I mean, he's ultra aggressive. He's ultra aggressive with the great body. I thought he's a little bit more explosive in person than he is on the tape. It was fun watching some of his plays along with the two that I don't know. Someone would have to tell me when the last time in a Big 12 game 3 guys had over 30. Some high level stuff going on with all 3 of them. I thought AJ was unreal. To have not just the points, but 7 assists, 1 turn, and then Rob just controlled the game. I thought, honestly. So, yes, if it was answering, it was a heavyweight fight, and there was a lot of talent out there.
Rob, y'all forced 13 turnovers. You only had 5. How did you prepare for this team defensively, especially you having 4 steals?
I mean, we just came off playing Houston, so they probably got us ready, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I'll piggyback to have 11 turnovers total in our last 2 games, and we shot 3 in 19 and scored 99 points. That's crazy. AJ was extremely efficient. Rob was extremely efficient as well, and so when the 3s start falling for us, I mean, that's the lid's going to blow off this thing, and when you don't turn it over, to your point, then all the more potent that offense becomes.
Rob, just talking about your comeback to Waco, what were the emotions heading into this, and then I guess just stepping on the court?
Honestly, I just wanted to get a win. I mean, coming in here for shoot around, I didn't really feel nothing. But when we came out to warm up, I felt a little emotions seeing some of the old managers and coaches that coached me here. So I'm just glad that I got a win, if I'm being honest, and it was good to see some faces.
AJ, it felt like you and Tunde may have going at each other a little bit one-on-one. Were you prepared for that matchup? Or are you coming in with a little extra oomph in what will inevitably be a NBA draft pick one-on-one?
I came in just because I wanted to get Rob to win. Just like we got, the win for Cable and Richie down there in Utah and at home. It was kind of just the same thing, coming with a little extra oomph when, guys coming from old schools. But I knew him to for some time. McDonald's All-American teammate. We're just competitors, so we went at each other. And I'll probably see him, and I will see him at the next level for sure.
Rob, late in the game, I'm sure you guys are used to the BYU crowd traveling pretty well, but there was a pretty loud BYU chant going on, and that got your arms up in the air, encouraging it. What were the feelings right then, the emotions, the thoughts in that moment?
I was just glad to have some people here on our side, just rooting for our team.
And AJ, it was a really efficient game for you. In addition to the stats Kevin already mentioned, I think it was 14 of 20 shooting or something. How much was the losing streak on your mind and trying to get that behind you guys?
It was everything. Like you said, I didn't expect to drop 4 straight, but you got to deal with adversity. It makes us stronger. So this is a must-win for us. Didn't want to come out here under 500 in the Big 12.
All right, we'll last 2 questions.
AJ, I'm not sure if you've heard the amount of boos that went Robert's way during this game, but what does that do to your mindset as a teammate when you're, if I swing it to the top of the key, there's going to be a ton of noise coming out?
I don't even know. He was getting booed. I just really tried to get him going early. I knew they were kind of still good at boo, but if you get him going early and then, the silence, the crowd's a good feeling. So I just tried to do that.
Kevin, you obviously took 2 timeouts in the first half, probably both, I would assume, to talk about defense. What did you do to adjust, and do you think you guys played better defensively than a week ago? But it was just the nature of the game that a lot of points were scored. Does that question make sense?
Are you referencing the Oklahoma State game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, our defense was better. No, not by much, but it was better. The reason we called the timeouts to make sure we had the right groupings in there. Subbed it wildly different tonight than I have for most of the season. Hadim came in and played the 5. Like him out there to be able to switch 1 through 5. I thought that put them in mud a little bit, and really helped us. So that's where those 2 timeouts are going. But also, man, I learned too. Like at Texas Tech, I probably held on to too many timeouts in the first half. It's probably on the road, it's a little bit different. So try to use them a little bit earlier to try to settle our group. And I thought it paid off in the first half to be able to kind of weather their initial onslaught where felt like they were hitting every shot.
All right, there are the Cougars after the game. We'll take a break. When we come back, Ken Pomeroy, KenPom.com, talking all things college hoops. Stay with us. DJ PK, and it's time to welcome Ken Pomeroy back to the show. Ken Pomeroy from KenPom.com. Ken, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. It's a special time of year. Special day, by the way. We're just pre-gaming here at the Pomeroy household for the mixed doubles curling gold medal game. 90 minutes away, USA versus Sweden.
Sweet. You got the chips, you got the dip, you got the wings warming up in the oven?
Absolutely.
Nice.
Full on tailgate.
Man, Doug Gottlieb was right about you.
What is that? Where does that come from?
Comes from Doug Gottlieb. PK is just the vessel. He's just the messenger.
He said, didn't you see it? He said you were, full of something.
I know what he said.
I know you know. I know you know what he said.
Have you ever had a personal interaction with him, or is this just he looked at your numbers, he didn't like them, and you're stat guy, analytics guy, so he went off because he's frustrated?
Yeah, I'm not even. Well, so anyway, I was on his show a couple times back in the day, and he was, he's not analytics friendly. Let's just put it that way. But we've never been adversarial, I would say.
You are now.
I don't know if we are now. I just think, what's funny about Doug is I'm a kind of a connoisseur of coaching press conferences, and I wish there was a way we could use AI or something to measure how long coaches talk in their press conferences, because most coaches are they want to get out of there, right? ask him a few questions. They don't have any use for the media, really. They'll give a few answers and get out. But Doug he'll go on and on and on. And I guess what was funny about that moment was like the question was like something completely irrelevant to me, but he knew how to get attention. And like the guy who tweeted that out was some like local Fox reporter or something, and the guy has like 500 followers, and all of his tweets get like 300 views or 400 views, and that tweet when he tweeted out the video got like 400,000 views.
That's because you're you.
Yeah,
I mean it is to some extent. It's like it's also because Doug, he knows what he's doing, and whatever. If he's got to throw me under the bus, he can. I think in the end, my reputation will be okay, and people will still make fun of Doug for various indiscretions when he was younger.
Well, I emailed the athletic director just in support of you to let him know that's unacceptable.
Thanks so much, BK. I appreciate that.
I'm curious right now, and there's still 4 weeks of basketball and conference tournaments to go. If you pick the tournament right now, how much change is there really? How much of this is already known as far as who's in and who's out? Because I'm looking at a team like BYU, losers of 4 in a row, 5 out of 6. Can somebody like that really play themselves out of the tournament?
I mean, they could if they wanted to. If they don't win another game, they won't be in the tournament. So they're not, they're not a lock at this point. I think that's when you look at these bracketologists and they talk about locks. It's what if you lost all of your games? And BYU lost all of their games. I think they would be out. But despite the fact that they're in a bit of a swoon, they're still a decent team, and there are wins coming up for them. They're dealing with life in the Big 12, and every game is difficult. So every game is a potential, especially on the road. Every game is a potential loss. But it would be pretty stunning if they lost the rest of their games. I don't really foresee that happening.
Yeah, I agree. The losses to the ranked teams, great teams, most of them, if not all of them, close games. I guess the Texas Tech one got a little bit away, but they did lead. But then you got an Oklahoma State loss. How much does the losses versus an Arizona and a Houston weigh compared to a loss against an Oklahoma State team? You see where I'm going there?
Yes, I see exactly where you're going. And, the losses to the top teams are, they're just really like missed opportunities to improve your position, more or less. The loss to Oklahoma State, I mean, that's the thing, so Oklahoma State turns around and they can barely put the ball in the basket against Arizona.
Yeah.
And so, I think that compounds the reputation of losing to them, I guess. You feel like, wow, it's a really bad loss. And it is a bad loss. If you're trying to be like a top 4 seed, which I think BYU, certainly on a good night, is capable of, that is a bad loss. But it's also probably going to end up as a quad 1 win because it was on the road, and Oklahoma State should finish in the top 75 in the net. So in that sense, it's obviously not a loss on the same scale of Arizona or Kansas, but it's not like it's some terrible loss that completely damages the reputation, which is, the whole benefit of playing in a league like the Big 12 is that, if you just go 500 in league, like you're going to be easily in the NCAA tournament.
The NCAA selection committee, and it's probably been a decade now, they used to say, how did you play in the last 10 games? It was definitely weighted. Is that all just subconscious now as far as that? Does a game now matter as much as a game in November, no matter what you do in the non-conference? And we always urge these teams to play more big games, and some do, but most don't. How important are the games now, and how weighted are they, either consciously or subconsciously?
Yeah, I mean, I used to be on the team sheet, last 10 games. I think one year they might even done last 12. And eventually people realize the flaw in that. There's no context for schedule. So if you're a team from a weaker league, Gonzaga is always going to enter the tournament with a very nice last 10 record. They might have 1 loss, maybe 2 in a really bad year, but a lot of years they're going to have 0. and that's obviously not feasible for a team in the middle of a power league. So that was the reason they wisely got rid of it. But yeah, I suspect it's still to some extent a factor for some of the committee members. I mean, that's the whole thing about the whole selection process. It's always been so weird to me is that, every year, I mean, it's just, it's 10 people on the committee, and they kind of have some guidelines, but there's nothing real firm there, and they can all kind of use whatever process they want internally. And so every year that like collective process among these 10 people is going to be slightly different from year to year. And so, yeah, I don't know, like, we can only guess how much how much recency plays into things. But, yeah, you have to imagine, like, at least on a subconscious level, a team, there's two teams that are close, a team coming in cold versus a team coming in hot. The hot team will probably get the benefit of the doubt.
Your name is out there, right? And it's universally used now, for better or worse. And it's going to be that way every year. Everybody, you could walk down any street in the country, nobody would know who you are. But if you carried a sign that says, I'm KenPom.com, I mean, everybody would know you, right? At least the ones who are interested in basketball. So I'm wondering, has the NCAA ever approached you about being on this committee to help with these seeds?
They have not. Why not? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Doug Gottlieb talked to them or something.
That's what I was debating whether or not to bring that back up. It's Doug Gottlieb. He's barring the door.
He's the puppet master behind all of this.
I mean, you got all this stuff out there, and they use it. So why wouldn't they just use you instead of having middle people?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't. My only real formal dealings with the NCAA were like 10 years ago, and they brought me and a few other these analytics people in to kind of discuss how to move away from the RPI. And it was a fairly productive meeting, and I really didn't hear much in the NCAA since then, and really haven't heard much from them since then. The last 10 years. But like one day, 2 years after that, I get a call from a reporter, and they're like, "Yeah, the NCAA is going to release this, new thing called the net. Like, have you heard anything about it?" I was like, "No, for a single thing." And it turns out the net is very similar to my rating. So,
so they just copied it.
It's very, very close. So maybe Doug Gottlieb should be talking about the net and not KenPom.com. But whatever, I appreciate the publicity.
We heard and we've seen Kevin Young at BYU. His first year they only played one, maybe two good non-conference games, and then they had a problem at the start of conference, and it was because they hadn't seen the team against good competition. So year two, he tweaks it, and they played 6 or 7 really good games. But I still heard him say, I don't know what we're getting out of these quad 4 games. And so it sounds like he's toying with the idea of getting rid of some more of these gimmies. What is the value to either you or the Nets, since apparently they're so similar, and what's the value in the selection committee in helping these schools, BYU included, going forward? I mean, if BYU were to go to find people that actually play home and home and go to the Marriott Center, and Utah State would probably do that. I mean, Utah State's quad 1 this year. Another year they might be quad 2. Is there value in that? You might lose when you go there, but how much is that going to hurt you versus playing a quad 4 team?
Yeah, I mean, so my ratings are designed to just evaluate how you play on a particular night. And the games against better competition, like if you're a good team like BYU, basically games on your level are more important in my ratings than, playing a team ranked in the 200s or 300s. But the games ranked in the 200s or 300s still do matter. There still is some signal there to determine how good a team is. However, those games they're pretty worthless when it comes to getting into the tournament or your seeding, unless you lose them. So that's really the crux of the issue. I mean, you look back 25 years ago, and there were some teams like Lute Olson in particular was a guy who, you look at the schedule that he played, they were ridiculous. Every single game there were no bye games on there. Every single game was a good team. He might slip in a weaker team or two on there, but they weren't, bottom 100 in the NCAA. They were 130th or something. They were still a decent team. And those days are obviously long gone. I mean, I would love to see Kevin Young tee up a schedule like that, because I do think ultimately, the Quad 4 games are pretty worthless. I mean, they pad your record, and if you're a coach whose seat is getting a little warm, that they might have some value in that respect. But I think for preparing your team for the season, playing better competition is, for the most part, it doesn't have any downside. Maybe at some point you just feel like, you're getting beaten up too much or whatever, and you do need a break, and so that's why you schedule a couple of those weaker teams. But as a fan, I would love to see Kevin Young get serious about that. However, I'm quite skeptical based on the fact that, you look at however many power conference teams we have now, 90 or so, like, no coach does that, and no coach has done that for a long time.
What seed do you think the Aggies will get?
This is a good question, PK. I mean, man, they're playing well. Like, obviously a lot is going to depend on the finish, because there's all sorts of landmines, but they have skillfully negotiated most of those landmines so far. I mean, had a bit of a struggle with my beloved Wyoming Cowboys the other night, but still managed to pull it out. So, I don't know. I mean, I think the upside is, probably like a 5. They finish strong and win the Mountain West outright. I think that's a reasonable goal. Obviously, there's downside as well, just like we discussed with BYU. If you really want to concoct a nightmarish finish, they could be out of the tournament. But I mean, I really like this Utah State team. It's maybe the best team we've seen here in this run over the past decade. So
I think so, and I think Calhoun might be the best coach that they've had too.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to him in the offseason. Not that we need to discuss those things right now, but he will be in demand.
If I said the Big 12 was going to get 7 teams in and the Mountain West was going to get 2, would you buy that, or would you move those numbers?
How much did you say for the Big 12?
7.
Yeah, I might take the over on that.
Okay.
Just, so many quality wins we shared among those mid-level teams that I think we could end up with 8 or 9. I think you're on point with the Mountain West. It's probably Utah State and San Diego State getting those bids, but I could see maybe 1 or 2 more for the Big 12.
I don't know if you've studied this, but there's a perception out there that because of the no Sunday play, that BYU always gets knocked down a level. And, if they're struggling to get in, then and say the top 4 is gone, maybe 5 or 6, and then if they get knocked down, then you got maybe a 7 or 8. Do you buy that theory that they are underseeded, and sometimes, if not always, it's because of the no Sunday thing, and they figure, well, okay, we'll let you in, but we're going to penalize you in a sense?
Yeah, I don't think they're out to penalize BYU. There are challenges in building the bracket, and when you're, only available for half of the bracket, any path that avoids a Sunday, then that creates some challenges, and perhaps the committee errs on the side of underseeding him in those cases. But I don't know. I think. I mean, anytime, I think to bring this back is they used to have the mock draft selection. And I think Scotty went to it one year, and everybody that goes to it just says we don't have time to the bracket's so complicated. We can't worry about matchups or where to avoiding storylines and things like that. So I have a hard time believing that there's any effect there. I do remember the time they got into the first 4, and the first 4s were the 14 seed or whatever for some reason. Was BYU a 14 seed, and they played Iona that one year in the first 4. And that, every single year since then and before, the first 4 of the seeds are always 11s, but that year they were a 14, I think, for that reason you mentioned. But that's the only time that I can really remember that happening.
But that was in the WCC days. I routinely, and PK and I were just talking about this, we routinely thought BYU got underseeded. But since then, there's been so much conference realignment, BYU included. The leagues have gotten so big. Some of those things they used to have to observe about, teams in the same conference couldn't play until the Elite Eight or something. Didn't they lighten up a lot of those rules? Isn't there more flexibility now than there was 10 or 15 years ago?
Yeah, way more, yeah. So now teams from the same conference, I believe, can meet in the second round if they've only played once. Yeah. And they can meet in the Sweet 16 if they played twice. So, they had to do that otherwise.
Because the leagues got so big, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you get SEC, gets 14 teams in last year. And it's like, how do you keep those teams from
playing?
Obviously impossible from playing for the Elite Eight, but certainly even in the round of 32, you got to have some exceptions for that. So, yeah, they made that change 4 or 5 years ago.
All right, Ken. Well, we kind of sort of like you, even if you have your detractors.
Stay out of the news. My gosh.
Yeah. You and your clickbait. Come on, Ken.
I don't know. There's a part of me, some people come up to me when that happens, and they're like, Doug's being so mean to you. And I don't know. I guess I would just every year there's one of these rants by some random coach, and I kind of enjoy it at this point. There's the alternative is nobody talks about you.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. I'm bad mouth you to my friends all the time.
That's why I love you, PK.
Well, Ken, we love having you come on the show. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you again in a little while.
All right, thanks, guys.
There's Ken Pomeroy. A reminder to join Scotty G tomorrow from noon to 3 at Minky Couture in Layton. The best blanket ever is also the best Valentine's gift ever. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Andy Bailey talking Jazz moves and tanking in the NBA. Stay with us. Join Scotty G Thursday from noon to 3 at Minky Couture in Layton. The best blanket ever is also the best Valentine's gift ever. Minky Couture. DJ PK, and we're joined once again by Andy Bailey. We'd love to have him in and talk NBA basketball. Andy, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We're doing well. You are right in our wheelhouse right now. You're the right guy at the right time. Got a question up this morning on social media. Now that you've seen a couple games, what's your evaluation of the Jazz trade deadline moves? Andy?
I like it. I think it's kind of funny that everyone's up in arms about Jaren Jackson Jr. not playing fourth quarters so far. This is the world that we live in with the NBA, and clearly Utah needs to lose games to add another foundational talent. But I do like the core that's in place, whether they add somebody to it or not, whether they add like a Cam Boozer or a Devance or a Peterson, whatever. Markkanen and Jackson, I think, fit together very well. I think Markkanen's quick enough to play some three when Walker Kessler gets back next season. I was truly not expecting sort of a win now move at the deadline for Utah, so that was a surprise to me. And I guess we can maybe they're in this group of deals that's not technically win now, because I think they're all kind of expecting to win next year, like the Pacers with Zubats and Utah with Triple J and the Wizards with Davis. Kind of a long-winded way for me to say I like it. I think those guys can fit together, but I also understand what they're doing. I see why they need to keep losing.
Be honest, Andy. When you heard this winter that we were still doing the show, you were surprised, weren't you?
Why would I be surprised? I think something just went over my head.
Because we've been doing this for so long.
No, you guys are going to go beyond me. I'm well prepared for that.
Okay, good. As long as you know. And the good thing is that we will talk to you in better times because, obviously we want locals to win. It's good for the show and business and all that stuff. And it's been 4 years they won't make the playoffs. That's a long dry spell, right? So with that in mind, go ahead.
Especially for Utah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because for so long they were a staple of the playoffs. And,
right.
Years ago I covered the Jazz specifically, and I was less of a national guy. And one of my favorite stats was just win percentage over the course of like 25, 30 years. And Utah was always top 2 or 3. in that number. They were just always consistently good. And ripping the Band-Aid off on a rebuild with those Mitchell and Gobert trades, I think everybody understood why it was done. But for a team and a fan base that had grown so accustomed to being competitive, 4 or 5 years without it is a pretty long time.
Yeah, it really is. And we're expecting, obviously, the tank is over with the trade of Jackson Jr. You don't do that with the intent to continue to lose. That would be counterproductive, obviously. And so the big question is, what are they going to be next year? Now, it's like one of these top 25s that come out the day after the national title game in college football, but we all do it and we all look at it and it's fun to do. So with that in mind, I ask you, what do you think the projection would be for them in terms of what they can do to compete next year? Are they a playoff team? No, whatever it might be. What do you think? And realizing that I can't hold, we're not holding you to anything.
Right. And it's extra tricky in the Western Conference just because every year for the last 25 or 30, it's been really tough to get into the playoffs. But I do think if they have, and these are numbers that I think extend back at least the last 2 or 3 years. When Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen play together, they've typically been pretty good, if not very good. And now Keontae George, I think, is a lot better than he was 2 or 3 years ago. And so if you have that Markkanen-Kessler foundation, you add Triple J, you add the still developing Keontae George, and maybe you do get somebody like Boozer, Dabansa, who may not be ready to contribute right away, but I think could certainly help at least a little bit. I think you can at least compete for a play-in spot, and that might sound kind of rough. Again, for a team and a fan base that was so used to winning for so long. But in the Western Conference, it's just kind of difficult to project much more than that. There's just so many good teams every single year, and even if Utah is 44-38 or whatever next season, that's probably 8th, 9th, 10th, somewhere like that. But at least fans will have a chance to watch like meaningful basketball games again, and I think a lot of the fan base is probably hungry for that.
Well, they're definitely hungry for that. I also think they're hungry for, playoff success. And since Stockton and Malone, Stockton retired, Malone went to L.A., and he retired a year later, they've missed the playoffs 12 times and qualified 11. And since Sloan retired, they've missed 8 and qualified 7. And there's only one Western Conference final in that whole stretch, and that's way back in 2007. So, if 20 years is a generation, and maybe some people say it's 25 or 30, but if we say 20 years is a generation, well, this is year 19. So right. I like the move too, but you didn't say you love the move. And I think the difference in there, the wiggle room is, as good as Jerrod Jackson Jr. is, he's getting $50 million. Now, Markkanen's in the same neighborhood. Markkanen's maybe $1 million or $2 million short, but he's right there, and he will get to 50. So they've got to sign Kessler this summer, and there's a gap. At least there was. Maybe that gap's been closed. Maybe it's going to come down to he's restricted, and they'll just have to either match or not match whatever he comes in with. A year later, they got to sign Keontae. Do you think it's all coming together and they could be back in a conference final? Can you see that in this, next 3-year window where everybody's signed? Because after that, the whole thing could turn upside down. I mean, everybody will hit free agency. Who knows what will happen? Team building isn't a 5 or 7 year thing anymore.
No, stuff turns over pretty rapidly in the NBA these days. And I think the distinction that you made between like and love is fair, because I probably would not say that I love it, because Jerrod Jackson Jr. is a great player. I don't know if he's like a franchise cornerstone. I guess he technically was for a pretty good Memphis team for a long time, but he's not the kind of guy who I think will push you to a conference finals. Now, maybe George or Markkanen is, but in such a tight window, when teams like the Thunder are still around and their guys are under contract for the next 3 or 4 years, and I think Jokic probably has a few really good years left. The Spurs are ahead of schedule somehow. I think they kind of upend the Western Conference hierarchy a little bit. So I would be pretty hesitant to say confidently that they can get to a conference finals, but like I just said, things change rapidly.
They do. Yeah.
Maybe Keontae George is not done. Like we saw a leap from him this season, and maybe there's another one next season. That's not out of the question. And that's kind of what made Utah a lot better than people expected the last time they had a good team, was Donovan Mitchell just kind of shot out of a cannon. It's taken Keontae George a little bit longer to hit his stride, but there's still room for improvement with him. Maybe they add one or two other guys this off season, and I could see them being competitive if things. Maybe here's how I'll answer it. If there are things that break right, potential conference finalists within the next 3 years. There's a lot of caveats built into that sentence, but I think that's just kind of how you have to look at the Western Conference.
Why do you think the Jazz have become the whipping boy with tanking now? It seems like they're taking all sorts of abuse when so many others have done it and done it to the benefit and literally helped them win titles.
That's a great question, and it's one I would like an answer for as well. I guess optically it looks a little different what they've done the last couple games than maybe some other teams I can think of off the top of my head. Like playing your guys for 3 quarters and then sitting them for the entire fourth is maybe a little different than what some teams have done, but Utah is far from the only team that's tried to take advantage of tanking over the last few years. And we just saw multiple teams richly rewarded by it over the last few years. The Spurs get Wembanyama, the Thunder load up their roster the way they did. The Spurs' whole dynasty 25 years ago, or 30 years ago at this point, started because of a tank or a gap year. This has been around for a long, long time, and I can't even begin to blame Utah for what they're doing, because I think they did the right thing when they traded Gobert and Mitchell. I do think that partnership had probably reached its peak, and they have chased lottery odds basically since then, and they just haven't been rewarded. And I understand chasing until you get the reward. I mean, how many, you guys probably know this better than I do, how many of these years have they actually moved down in the draft? Last year.
Never once.
Never once. They've never once
penalized.
They've never once
They're
moved.
against us, Andy. Let's call it like it is. You're a lawyer. You believe in conspiracy.
It's hard not to when I watch the NBA as much as I do. I'll put it that way. Yeah, so it's ridiculous, frankly. I think the national reaction to what Utah is doing, because the other thing that I haven't mentioned too is if you're a small market in the NBA, there really aren't any other avenues for team building. Like, this is it. This is how you have to do it. So I don't blame them one bit, and I frankly find a lot of the national reaction to it silly and stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm intrigued that you think so much of the Western Conference, and I certainly agree. The history says it's really good, and it's certainly way better than the East. We're seeing that as the Jazz, with whatever partial lineups they run out there, look really good against Atlanta and Miami, and pretty good against Orlando for that matter too, who are sitting 7, 8, 9 in the East. And the Jazz aren't even really trying to win right now. And next year, I'm thinking Sacramento, New Orleans, and Memphis are going to be worse than the Jazz, those three. But I could see the Jazz catching Dallas and Portland, and I'm not clear with the Clippers, Warriors, and Lakers how much they're going to go to a rebuild. Now, the Lakers have Doncic, so they can only go so far down. But they're a team that could be vulnerable to one injury because their roster seems to be so top-heavy. I'm not completely convinced what direction the Timberwolves are going at this point. So when I hear people talk top 6, I know there's no way it's a lock. Let's get all the way through the summer and see what roster moves. But it's like I can't completely rule it out right now. I didn't hear that level of optimism in your voice.
Well, I think the way that you framed it is probably accurate, to say that you can't rule out top 6. And maybe a better way for me to frame the Western Conference is there's going to be 2 or 3, maybe 4 teams that they just probably can't catch. That would be the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Spurs. I may be missing one at this point.
Rockets, maybe?
Yeah, maybe the Rockets, but they've been a little bit worse than I thought they would be this season. So maybe they're kind of in this next group, or the last group. I'll save this group for last. then you mentioned some teams that I think are definitely going to be bad next season. And I think it's fair to expect Utah to be able to leapfrog them. And I think this is true in both conferences, there's kind of a morass in the middle. And the Western Conference morass is always better than the Eastern Conference, or at least I would say like 9 out of 10 years is kind of how often that happens. And so it's just kind of I would say it'll be more difficult for Utah to climb through that bunch of teams and finish in the top 6, obviously, than it would have been in the East. I'm not saying anything groundbreaking there, but there's always a big chunk of teams in the middle, or at least it seems that way to me. And I think Utah can be in that chunk. Getting above it, maybe we need to see what happens this summer, but I think they can at least be in that big chunk.
I just think the Jazz might be able to do what the Suns did. I mean, the Suns, with
for sure
not nearly as obvious as what the Jazz have going, they're 7th in the West now, and they're 2 games out of 4th.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And that was a team that I thought was tanking.
I know, right? You're not alone.
And so simply playing hard can go a long way. So maybe it's a little easier to turn the page than I'm thinking, because there are examples like the Suns here and there.
Yeah. Well, Andy, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you, especially as things heat up with the draft and free agency and the playoffs as well. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it, guys.
There is Andy Bailey. With a reminder, the KSL Sports Zone and Beehive Meals are honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week at KSLSports.com/contest. And listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. All right, we'll take a break. What is trending? Coming up next.